All right, happy Monday. It's 5 o'clock here on the East Coast. Here are the top 5 stories we didn't want you to miss. Remember that wacko Rhode Island AG who told officer, "Oh, you're going to regret putting me in handcuffs"? She's been placed on unpaid leave. Deuces, lady. Devin Flanagan's suspension began today. She was arrested for allegedly trespassing while appearing drunk earlier this month. Maybe just shut your mouth and you wouldn't have gone viral, and then you'd probably still have a job. Whatever. We're better off without you. And Chris Christie, next to be investigated, maybe? Trump's saying Christie lied about the closure of the George Washington Bridge to stay out of jail and refused to take responsibility. Now, Christie's staff members, if you remember, they took the brunt of this. They closed lands, creating traffic jams in retaliation for a local mayor who didn't back Chris Christie's bid for re-election. Trump said today possible investigation would be left up to the DOJ. Plus, the U.S. government is likely to take more stakes and ownerships in companies, according to National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett. Last week, as you know, Trump announced that they were taking a 10% position in Intel, if you can believe it. Maybe this is the way to reduce the $37 trillion deficit. And Trump's today saying he's going to reduce drug prices by 1,500%. Now, Trump's already set a deadline for pharmaceutical giants to lower prices by the end of September. Look, America develops these. So for the rest of the world, basically, we might as well benefit from it. There's just zero reason why we should be paying more for drugs than Europe does. Plus, the IRS halting its layoff plans and looking to rehire some fired employees. Wrong direction. No, this is what we don't want. We should be abolishing them and the Fed. But first, imagine enforcing laws and it reduces crime. Weird concept. Let's do this. Okay. After Trump took it's like 5 hours of questions today or something like that, which is, in my opinion, probably more than Biden took in his whole 4 years of his presidency. But turns out the Trump crime crackdown in D.C. is actually working, signing an executive order today ending cashless bail down there. By the way, on the 12th day of no homicides in D.C. Let me say that back. 12 days of no homicides in D.C. I guess this should be the norm. You shouldn't have to worry about getting murdered on a regular basis, but this is apparently the lowest murder rate D.C. has seen in 3 decades.
No one can even find a record of being murder-free for as long as we've been murder-free under President Trump's leadership.
It was one of the worst cities. And by the way, that was after they cooked the books to make it look not as bad. Now to 0 murders in almost 2 weeks. Welcome back to a civilized society, Washington. Sincerely, Donald Trump. And now that he's shown how enforcing laws is actually a good thing and it makes, less people die, he's setting his eyes on Chicago and maybe even New York. And Pritzker, the Illinois governor, he's absolutely losing his mind.
Searching for ways to lay the groundwork to circumvent our democracy, militarize our cities, and end elections. There is no emergency in Chicago that calls for armed military intervention. There is no insurrection. There is no insurrection.
This is rich. The notion of, freedom, individuality, states' rights, and let us handle our own business. We got this. From the people that basically shoved a leash up your rear and put a shock collar on you for all of America during COVID. He had some of the most strict lockdown policies, just like Newsom, who's another one criticizing Trump right now. This is the craziest thing. People like him and Tim Walz, you talk about an authoritarian. They were calling Trump a dictator. Bro, some of these Democrats had the National Guard shoot people in the neck with paintballs on their own porch because they dared to go outside on their own property during COVID. Yeah, okay. Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, J.B. Pritzker, Brandon Johnson, who else? I don't know. Kathy Hochul doesn't want Trump saving people's lives in these cities, but them and their cities use the National Guard and state police and local police or whatever to shut down businesses. They would arrest you for paddleboarding alone in the ocean. They find you for not covering your face. Tell me more. Please lecture me on authoritarianism, you people. And when you're measuring the numbers of murders by the hundreds per month and you get mad at the guy who wants to help save lives, I knew the libs were nuts, but they're actually sacrificing their own residents of their jurisdiction at the altar of political correctness, not just to not give Trump a win. This is unbelievable. These people should be brought up on charges. They're literally overseeing near genocide levels of death in their cities. When I was going through this tonight, I thought, hey, you know what, maybe comparing this to genocide might be a little extreme. So I was like, hit the interweb to check the definition of genocide. Nope, not extreme. This seems to fit. Just Chicago, Detroit, LA, New York, Los Angeles, pick a couple more, St. Louis, Baltimore, and then obviously Washington, D.C. They had like almost 2,000 murders just last year. 2,000. Just for comparison, in the 20 years in the Middle East at war, we lost just shy of 7,000 lives. In 20 years at war, they lost 2,000 in just a few cities last year. And Trump just gave D.C. their longest stint in 30 years without a murder. Piro noted this today. 86 arrests just last night, 10 illegal guns seized yesterday. You would think the left would love that. 1,007 arrests and 111 illegal guns off the street in a little over a week. Also, Caroline Leavitt noted, which was also her birthday the other day, carjacking down 86%. That makes me happy when I drive there. Robberies also down 47%. And on the 12th day of no homicide. Like, what is your argument against this? Seriously, make one. Go. You can. Because up until 2 weeks ago, you can make a pretty rational argument about never visiting any of these cities at all.
D.C. a week ago had a higher murder rate than Trinidad and Tobago, which the United States State Department has said you shouldn't visit because it's unsafe.
Yeah, so don't go to countries with half the murder rate of Washington, D.C., according to the State Department. But libs also say, oh, no, we don't need your help in it. Yes, you do. You really do need their help. I mean, can you imagine being a resident? And, well, I'm sure some of you can, because unfortunately, some of you people live in these cities. I live in New York because I have to. Otherwise, I'd move to Wyoming or something. But, do you think any single mom of 3 kids, probably living paycheck to paycheck, working 3 jobs, is sitting there I might get murdered, but thank God Trump is not helping? No! Read the room, Democrats! Trump had a few choice words for these people, and I was just sitting there laughing. These are the people running these cities and states.
A slob like Pritzker, a guy like Pritzker, he ought to spend more time in the gym, actually. This guy is a disaster. Gavin Newsom's a disaster. I don't like going to a town, a city, place, a state, and then be criticized by some corrupt or incompetent governor.
I mean, he did this for 4 or 5 hours today. It was great. The bigger issue here is how we got here. There's 30 or 40 million people who live in these dangerous cities that I listed off, probably more actually. And they just stay there. And they keep electing the same Democrats. That's the real problem here. That's why Democrats don't want him in their city. They saw that this is working in D.C., and these elected officials are like, oh, snap. I mean, 93% of D.C. voted Democrat. And they know if this comes to their city, there's a real possibility that Democrats don't win another election ever.
We don't have to live like this. We do not have to allow our cities to be taken over by violence and by disorder and by chaos. You can actually do stuff. You can actually bring law and order to communities. You've just got to have the political willpower to do it.
Yup. People are going to realize real quick that you don't have to live like this. You don't have to have, women make dinner plans around whether or not the street lights are out on that block. Deodorant's not going to be behind some stupid plastic divider that you got to ring the button and get somebody to come over 10 minutes later to get toothpaste in every pharmacy. You don't have to have homeless people and hobos shooting up in the street, all passed out and crooked in the sidewalk. Places like Seattle. That place, magnificent, beautiful place, just completely destroyed by Democrats and legalizing drugs and all their stupid policies. And the libs, they're going to protest Trump trying to make their city worth going to again. Good, great job, guys. I mean, okay. This next election is going to be a landslide. This is what Trump is targeting. The cities. If he can just peel 5 or 10% of cities by opening up their eyes and showing them that you don't have to live in fear, The left is never going to win another election ever. This is what Rudy Giuliani did. Dinkins, the old mayor, just ruined Manhattan. I mean, crime was through the roof. People got fed up and finally elected a Republican, which they said would never happen. He came in, did the broken windows policing, stopped basically all crime. Like, you jump a turnstile, jail. I mean, the city boomed after this. But why we have Democrats speaking out against enforcing the law? I mean, I guess that's their voter base. Whatever. I'm here for it. They want to make these statements about how bad Trump is for cleaning up crime and enforcing the law. Fine, be my guest. 2026 midterms is going to be a doozy. President of the Black Conservative Federation, Deontay Johnson. All right, so, sir, you're out that way, and this is something that's hitting home for you in Chicago. I can't imagine being on the wrong side of this, like the 80-20 issue again.
You know, I want Pritzker and Brandon Johnson to go to Gatlin's funeral home, Alik and Son's funeral home on a Saturday when families are mourning the death of a loved one that was shot and murdered. I want them to go and walk the streets, talk to the funeral homeowners that have to worry about their funeral home being shot up while a funeral is actually going on. These people are out of touch. Pritzker's out of touch. Brandon Johnson's out of touch. That's why the Black Conservative Federation, that's why we're releasing our Safe Streets Now campaign, because we have to get into these communities and take it back. We have to support our president. The National Guard needs to be there, and we need to clean up these streets. Yeah. Families don't even have family reunions anymore because they're afraid that someone's going to drive by the park and shoot it up, and kids can't even play outside, or senior citizens can't sit on their porch and just enjoy the night air because you don't know if a bullet's going to be flying or not.
Right, and this is, we're looking at a live press conference of these people babbling on about nonsense right now. But, you know, Pritzker, that guy right there, before his breakfast buffet, went out and did this video at like 7 a.m., 8 a.m. The sun's coming up. He's like, look at how nice it is here. He's right on the water. It's like, dude, like 7 to 8 a.m. is statistically the lowest crime hour of your city's history, and you're out there on the water on a patrolled park with a security gang. Of course it's going to be a nice city for you.
It's nonsense. It's very nonsense. But you notice they did the press conference downtown. They didn't do it in the west side of Chicago and the south side in 63rd. They didn't do it in the Roseland community. They did it downtown because they did it where they protect, where they made sure that it's not there's not violence there. But when you go into the regular parts of Chicago where everyone lives, there's violence happening. You can't drive down the streets. People are afraid to even have their windows let down because they're afraid that there's going to be a bullet fly through or someone's going to rob them. And you got to make sure that you have the club on your car and your car is locked and, you know, your car's in the garage if possible because people will steal your cars. This is something that has happened. I don't know what city they live in. I don't know what America they live in. But we need to clean up our streets, and it needs to be safe immediately. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson are bad for Chicago. They're bad for Illinois, and they're bad for America. So I hope he doesn't try to run for president because, listen, we don't want the rest of the country to become Chicago.
Yeah, no, nobody. My uncle used to live in Chicago, and you know what? He left and went to Florida because he wanted to be safe. And the White House put out these statistics showing the crime in Chicago. Most murders of any city for 13 consecutive years. Highest murder rate among U.S. cities with 1 million plus people. Murder rate per capita more than double Islamabad, which is 15 times more than in Delhi, India. I mean, this is insane.
It's crazy, and the stats doesn't lie, but also the murders are not lying. You just get on social media and you see death after death after death, shooting after shooting, and it's happening in real time. It's happening on Facebook Live and TikTok, and you're seeing these things happen live. So you can't diffuse that. I don't know what city they live in. And listen, this is not a time to play political games. This is time to take care of the American people. Yep. This is time to take care of the people of Chicago. Don't play a political game. You may not like Trump, but you should like the citizens in your state. You should like the citizens in your city to want to protect them. It's not about politics. It's about safety.
Right. And the other thing, Pritzker wanted Trump. He dared Trump to go talk to people and see the true story. Roll this real quick.
Look around you right now. Does this look like an emergency? Look at this. Find a family who's enjoying today sitting on their front porch and ask if they want their neighborhoods turned into a war zone by a wannabe dictator.
Deontay, you live in Chicago. I'm sure you've talked to people.
So I live in the D.C. area, but I'm from Chicago.
DC,
my
yeah.
my family's constantly in Chicago, and and when I talk to my family, that's not what they're saying. But also, I can guarantee that most of those people behind them live in secured buildings or secured apartments, that they're not in the community. They're not on the South Side. They're not on the West Side. I was just in Chicago, and literally 2 blocks away from me, there was a shooting where a young kid was shot, and then drove down the street 2 days later, and there was another shooting. It's continuing to happen. I don't know what Chicago these people live in. I don't know what Chicago these folks are even talking about, or what Illinois they're talking about. It's a mess. It is a mess, and people are tired of it.
No.
People are tired of not being safe, and they want to leave. That's why you have so many people going over to Indiana for safety.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Well, Deontay Johnson, we appreciate it, and hope you and your family are safe when you headed out to Chicago.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up, Gavin Newsom has been using social media to attack Trump and other Republicans, but it's kind of backfiring. But first, the Trump administration has been trying to get to the bottom of the Epstein saga, and now a new report is detailing how Ghislaine Maxwell was actually honored and maybe even took part in the Clinton group after years of allegations of sexual abuse. What? Next. More digging we do that this Jeffrey Epstein story, the more that comes out. CNN, of all places, is actually reporting, based on the transcripts that were released, that Ghislaine Maxwell was honored at a prestigious Clinton event years after sexual misconduct allegations had first surfaced. This was in 2013, years after Epstein got that sweetheart plea deal from Florida prosecutors. Now, this article saying, quote, previously unreported information reviewed by CNN lists Maxwell among those recommended for complimentary access to the conference. A list that, according to a source familiar with it, indicates her access was personally recommended by either Bill or Hillary Clinton. CNN even released the video of Maxwell at this event in 2013. This new report comes after the transcript between DOJ and Maxwell was released. Todd Blanche asking Maxwell, quote, were you part of the ramp-up or the startup of the Clinton Global Initiative? Maxwell responded, well, yes, I was. Todd Blanche then says, and helping them in supporting that effort, to which Maxwell responded, I would say yes, very central to that, yes. Look, Jeffrey Epstein was a founding member of the Clinton Global Initiative, and inquiring minds want to know, because I'm not letting it go, was it used to launder money? We don't know yet. Again, there's nothing legally wrong with the concept of this, as we can see right now, but imagine just for a second if Epstein or Maxwell helped Trump with the Trump Organization or any other business venture. It'd be front page news. Doug Burns, former prosecutor, federal prosecutor, Andrew Chakosky, criminal defense attorney and former federal prosecutor. Andrew, I look at this and I'm like, okay, it's not illegal for Maxwell or Epstein to be on the board or found the Clinton Global Initiative, but it makes me ask a lot of questions.
Well, there's no doubt that the Clintons were closely connected to Maxwell and Epstein over the years, and even during times that are highly suspicious. I think that at this point, we hope that there are some industrious prosecutors at the DOJ that are sitting down and very carefully reviewing every step of every action that they can go back and replay, both from Maxwell and Epstein, to get to the underlying truth. If their connections with folks, and really on the left or the right, that actually implicate some sort of criminal misconduct. Because we have to remember that while Maxwell and Epstein have been, Maxwell specifically convicted, and Epstein most clearly evidence stacked against him, but died before, that they could have also engaged in much lawful activity. And so you have to kind of take those two apart, that they had their lawful lives and which of the criminal activities that they were involved in crossed that line. And that's what we need prosecutors and people at the DOJ to uncover. Yeah, and they, like these people, these very wealthy people, are very well choreographed and skirt that law wherever they can. All right, so over the weekend, Doug, Trump went after ABC and NBC, saying that they're two of the worst and most biased networks in history. Give me 97% bad stories. If that's the case, they are simply an arm of the Democrat Party and should, according to many, have their licenses revoked by the FCC. Look, I mean, I say let them keep talking because it's great fodder for us. But at the same time, what is the legality? I mean, if they're literally basically an arm of the DNC, I mean, like we're a conservative network, could a Democrat pull our license then?
Well, as usual, you're going to have two wildly different characterizations. One is going to be that it's viewpoint discrimination. He's saying they should be canceled because of their viewpoint. And the other one is no, they're engaging in improper political conduct. And you can argue it back and forth intelligently. But to me, and I'm smiling, Trump is absolutely the master of using these type of phrasings and rhetoric, because what happens is the left immediately just goes all over the ski tips, Carl, about this is clearly First Amendment. He is a dictator. You see that? And the point is, he just keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger when they do those meltdowns. I find that amazing.
Yeah, but Andrew, the other thing too is, like, I can come up with, I don't know, just a couple examples of like the other side censoring stuff. I mean, you had the Biden administration basically censor everybody of COVID. Mark Zuckerberg said he was pressured by Biden officials to censor people against COVID about vaccines and mask mandates. Zuckerberg also said he was pressured to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story. The House Judiciary Committee alleged that the Biden administration funding a censorship program. Remember Nina Jankowicz, the disinformation board. Biden admin called for videos to be taken down of Joe Biden stumbling and bumbling. I mean, they censored stuff too.
Yeah, the evidence is overwhelming that ABC, NBC, the main channel news networks have been incredibly biased against Trump. And it's not just a bias, it's that they don't report on the perspectives that Trump has and that Trump's trying to communicate to the electorate about how he sees politics and how he sees fairness and justice and whatnot. And it's just constant attacks on him. We have to remember there are public airwaves, and public airwaves are different than what we have perhaps on Newsmax, which is a bit of a different service. Those public airwave channels have neutrality requirements that are associated with them, and they get great benefit as a result. And so when you've got this overwhelming evidence and just a basic understanding of what happens in the media, you see that they are way off base in any sort of neutrality test that you could apply.
Yeah, real quick, Doug, I got 10 seconds here. Bolton's home raided. Turns out he was sending classified stuff to his wife, apparently, allegedly.
Well, the other ones have got all high and mighty about it, criticizing and ripping Trump. So, what goes around comes around, basically, Carl.
Yeah, not shocking. We'll see what happens there. Doug, Andrew, appreciate it very much. All right, coming up, Ma'am Danny is embarrassing himself massively. He's just one of the weakest humans I've ever met. All that and more in our Culture Clash.
Easy money. We're gonna lift on three. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Hey, up, hey, let's go. Hey, baby. Yeah, let's go.
Not a rep. Not a rep. Zoran Kwame Mamdani, the guy running for mayor of New York City. Typical Democrat, just embarrassing yourself. Like, go eat some lab-grown meat after that, all right? You couldn't even bench press 135, not even your body weight. I mean, like, look, that's a joke many included me on, obviously, too. Riley Gaines outdid this guy. That's me repping 405 because, you know what, Mamdani, you're weak. And a girl just outdid you, too. Luke Ball, CEO, Compass Strategies, and Matt Palumbo, author of The Air. Luke, look, bro, if the bar ain't bending, you're just pretending.
Well, first of all, Carl, thank you for thinking of me for coming on this segment to talk about weightlifting. I appreciate that. But you got to cut him a little bit of slack because there's not a lot of protein in the bread lines. And if the guy's out there bench pressing his IQ, I think New Yorkers might be a little concerned.
135, you're giving him a lot of credit, man.
Might be adding a couple of points onto that. Yeah, I would admit that. But lastly, I'd say that, like, these Democrats in New York are like 2 elections away from strapping Karl Marx to a defibrillator, waking him up and running him at the top of the ballot. That's a major problem far beyond his bench reps.
Yeah, no, definitely. But, as we go through and watch this stuff, Matt, it's just like comical to me. And at the same time, you've got him not bench pressing his body weight. You have Southwest Airlines taking another fitness stance where they're actually getting rid of their policy that lets plus size or fat people buy 2 seats for the price of 1. Now, this comes as the airlines are making a huge shift now. To be fair, it's basically every other airline. If you're too big to fit in 1 seat, you have to buy 2.
Well, I mean, as we all know, there is no such thing as free. If they are giving, a no-cost seat to someone who needs to, the cost is getting passed on to everyone else. And we already do socialize the cost of obesity in this country, especially when it comes to healthcare. Those who are overweight are taking far more out of the system than they're paying into it. So they are subsidized to some extent. And whenever there is a group or a behavior that is imposing a cost, the question is not, is it going to get paid? It is who is going to pay it. And I think that people who are creating it for themselves are the ones who should pay it.
Yeah, no, I mean, and like, I'm not a huge human, but I, can fit in a coach seat, not great comfortably, but anyway. A recent campaign, Luke, by a African advocacy group is urging organizations and schools to, quote, adopt the equal earth projection, which they saying is a more accurate depiction of the continent. I mean, basically, they want you to make Africa bigger on a map for whatever reason. I mean, what great innovation has come out of, sub-Saharan Africa in the last 100 years that we should honor it by making it bigger on a map?
I'm for ranking all of the nations in the world by GDP and making that the standard in our nation's classrooms. And then maybe we can see, hey, is the United States making an enormous contribution to the world? Is maybe another country not making an enormous contribution to the world? Instead of land mass, let's go off of the economy. I think that's a better idea.
Yeah, or, I mean, pick any metric, all right? Australia, okay, Australia, Matt, they've had this bold plan now because they're going to tax people on their spare bedrooms, all right? The government hopes that, this is some ridiculous solution to the housing supply crisis. It's going to encourage people to not be taxed, so they're just going to let randos stay in their house. Right, sure.
Yeah, well, we're seeing in a lot of developed countries, I mean, it's a two-pronged problem, where one is the regulations are such that it's very difficult or expensive to build more housing, and then for some reason there's this psychosis afflicting the West of we just have to bring in tens of millions of people from around the world for no real benefit, and of course that is going to jack up the demand for housing, and, we're going to see the opposite after mass deportations. We should actually see housing costs come down. The rest of the West and the rest of the Western world needs to do that as well.
Right, but Luke, this raises another question. It's like these people, it's like their property. I mean, granted, in Australia, they're a penal colony of the UK, but they don't have the same Fourth Amendment protections, the right to be secure in one's home, purposes and effects and papers. But can you imagine that? It's like, oh, you have an empty one? This is like actually like socialism and Marxism imposed in real life.
Well, maybe they don't have such Fourth Amendment or maybe even like borderline Third Amendment protections because they gave up their Second Amendment rights and they were giving up their guns left and right. Maybe the government is not as afraid of the populace as they ought to be. And so now they're slowly starting to see their freedom slip away and have these taxes levied on them. And over here in the United States, we got to be very careful. It can creep up on us, too.
Yeah, well, it turns out if you give your guns to the government to let them run them over steamrollers, they do stupid stuff like tax you for empty bedrooms. Luke, Matt, pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, one man doing the thing we all want to do, shutting Gavin Newsom up with his annoying social media stunts. We got that story next. Gavin Newsom's tour of stupid just is not coming to an end. But the internet keeps fact-checking him, too. Over the weekend, Newsom tweeted out a Forbes article about electrical bills, saying electricity prices have gone up 10% since January. Great work, Donald Trump. My man Ted Cruz coming in with the fact smash and said, hey, at Grok, electricity prices have gone up 10% since January. In what cities and states are they the highest? And would you look at that? Highest state rates, Hawaii, 42.5 per megawatt. California, 35. My home state of Connecticut, 31.6. Massachusetts, 30.7. Rhode Island, 27.8. The highest cities also Honolulu, San Francisco, New York, Boston, and Hartford, Connecticut. Oh, and what do all of those cities and states have in common? Oh, that's right. Democrats run them. So, Gavin, maybe set this one out. Michael Savage, host of the Savage Nation. Sir, I mean, it's just like the memes write themselves.
I pay almost $5.50 a gallon of gas in California. My boat, gasoline for a boat is $6.30 a gallon in Gavin's backyard. You ought to come down to Sausalito and look at the gas stock. So, look. He is the worst manager in the history of the state of California. I despise Gavin's politics. I don't despise the person called Gavin. But the most important thing is I know. I've known him for 25, 30 years. And the thing is, I don't mean know him where we come and have ham and eggs together.
Thank God.
I've known him for 30 years. but we shouldn't underestimate Gavin Newsom. And the reason is this. The people have short memories. A lot of things could happen between now and the election. And we must pay close attention to what he's doing. He's mocking Trump the man rather than Trump and Trump's policies. He's mocking his style and his persona, which is very interesting because not everybody likes Donald Trump's style and persona. And Trump, we must remember, is not running for a third term. So who is Gavin going to run against? Vance, Rubio, Noem, there are others, Youngkin, Paul, Cruz, Kemp, etc. But let's say that Gavin runs against Vance. Vance is a great guy. I love Vance, but he has no charisma.
What? I think he...
Let me tell you from my point of view. Gavin is movie star handsome. He's extremely glib. He has a well-oiled machine behind him.
That is true.
Right, and he shouldn't be underestimated. His policies have been disastrous.
Yeah.
The huge budget deficit, homelessness, fires, not rebuilding the Palisades, the train to nowhere, billions of dollars on nothing.
Hobos everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. But will people really care? Or will they simply vote for style, not substance, as has happened too many times in the past?
Vance would wreck him in a debate, though. I want to get to this, though, because CNN is making a big hoopla about it, and then the usual groups, about how many followers he's getting. Roll this real quick.
Okay.
That account, get this, up 450% in terms of the number of followers since mid-June. And it's not just on Twitter, X, where Newsom is gaining. Even on TikTok and Instagram, his followers are up over 1 million since January alone. My goodness gracious. And more than that, Laura, more than that, what about Google? What about those Google searches for him? Get this, daily Google searches for Gavin Newsom up like a rocket. What are we talking about? Since June 1, up 1,300%. Compared to August 1st, look at that, up 500%. So the bottom line is, in politics, especially if you're thinking of entering in 2028, it's all about generating attention. And so far, Gavin Newsom has done a good job at generating attention.
But I just followed him. I put him on alerts, actually, because the things you're saying is so ridiculous. So, like, I don't like him. I'll never vote for him. I wouldn't even stop my car if he was standing in the middle of the road. But it's like, I follow him. So are those people that hate him? Because that seems more likely.
If Joseph Stalin came back, he'd have more followers than Gavin Newsom. What do followers have to do with whether someone is going to vote for you? He's making a splash, and people are following him. Now, they're also attacking him because he has an all-white family, you should know. This is very interesting. That's become a deficit to the left. He's got a beautiful wife and beautiful children. He's a good father. He's a good father. When I was on his when I was on his podcast, I raised the issue of responsibility, and he said he has the children make their own beds and things like that.
Yeah,
I said, you make
things that didn't happen for 500, I bet, in the Newsom household.
No, but he has said it on his podcast. He said
he says a lot of things on his podcast.
Well, he said he makes his own bed also. I said, Gavin, you make your own beds? He said, yes. It's on his podcast. Then he says, and I teach my children to make their own beds. I said, that's very conservative.
Bull. All right, but check this out. You want to know who Gavin Newsom is? I want to bring back this clip when he was mayor. Absolute meltdown, being confronted about drinking. Roll this.
Good one.
It hasn't been a very easy week for you, and I'm wondering whether you have any comment on the Mateer and Roth story about the drinking.
Thank you very much. That was a great cheap shot.
You can't help yourself. You cannot. Just know, for the record, it's increasingly impossible to have a conversation.
Mayor was out there. Mayor was out there.
And he went on berating that reporter for simply asking something that was well documented about drinking on the campaign.
He's gotten much better control since then. They've really trained him very well. He's very well. Look, I'm going to leave you with one thought. You can mock him all you want. His policies stink. The state is in a mess, even though I love California's geography. But don't underestimate the machine.
Fair point.
And his glibness.
Yeah.
If we're going to make a mistake if we do that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Well, Michael Savage, got to leave it right there. Always a pleasure, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right. Be sure to catch Savage Nation right here on Newsmax Sundays, 8 p.m. Great show. Coming up, Trump is quickly becoming the peacemaker in chief, solving 7 conflicts and counting now. The latest from his talks with President of South Korea. Next. Well, MS-13 member and illegal Kilmar Abrego Garcia was taken into custody this morning after a check-in at an ICE field office in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, ICE notified Abrego Garcia's attorney that he may be deported now to Uganda after rejecting a plea deal over the weekend where he would have been deported instead to Costa Rica in exchange for pleading guilty to human smuggling charges. But of course, instead of taking the deal, he chose to cry about it to his Democrat sympathizers and, of course, with the help of a translator.
Y luchar por mi libertad.
And this is why I want to thank each and every one of you who marched, lift your voices, never stopped praying, and continued to fight in my name.
And apparently now a judge has said he's not getting deported. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, great, this is exactly what we voted. His lawyer filing claims that they'll be filing a lawsuit to keep him here further than that. But Trump, calling out these Dems on why they think he should stay.
They think he's going to be good for votes, and I think he's very bad for votes. These people are deranged. He's not good for votes. He beat the hell out of his wife. His wife is afraid to even talk about him. She's been mauled by this animal.
Rob O'Neill, fellow team guy and the man who smoked Osama bin Laden. Michael Pragan, the former intel officer. All right, so Rob, I look at this and, we went to war for this country, and I'm like, this is not really the guy I envisioned defending when I was over there trading lead.
No, not at all. Thanks for having me as well, Carl. Yeah, for some reason, this Kilmar dude is like a hero to the left. And I'll be honest, after hearing all the stuff, I'm pretty much heroed out. I don't know why they love him. I think it's got to do with the gerrymandering. If the Democrats can sort of pretend that they care about people that come across the border legally or illegal, they can maneuver the votes, keep themselves in power. I really don't think they care about this guy. Plus, leaving here and going to Costa Rica wouldn't be bad. Going to Uganda, it gets a bad rap, but it's called the Pearl of Africa. It's right next to Lake Victoria, the largest lake in Africa. The only downside, mountain gorillas are cool. The downside is, I was looking it up, they have tree climbing lions. So, avoid that, but not too bad. A little African vacation. What's the problem?
We've spent more money on the U.S. government flying this guy around the world for different deportations. Let's just get rid of him and forget about it. We'll put him in the tree. All right. So, Michael, Trump met with the South Korean president today, detailing new plans for trade. Roll this. This is incredible.
We are thinking about contracting some ships. They build them very well in South Korea. They're also thinking about coming to our country with some shipyards to start us on the process of building ships again. At World War II, we'd build a ship a day. And today we don't build ships anymore, which is ridiculous. We're going to start that again.
And also the strategic location there, Michael, right next to North Korea, right next to China, big for us.
Yeah, it's huge. Anytime we can do business with an ally that puts an enemy at risk is a great opportunity. And thanks for having me on. The last time I saw O'Neill was at the Air Force Navy game on 9/11 in Annapolis. So good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Mike.
Yeah, the whole thing about what Trump is doing with, a business aspect of foreign policy, it basically puts a country like North Korea on notice that we can outspend you, we can out-ally you, we can outsource you, we can do all these things. And it's a strong message. And I like that the South Korean president asked Trump to send a strong message to Kim Jong-un today.
Yeah, don't worry. North Korea is opening up a luxury hotel line on their coast. So we'll make sure that we get that in our queue. All right, so far as President Trump has resolved, Rob, you and I, we will go to war happily and we'll do a good job at it, but we'd rather avoid it at all costs. Now, Trump has resolved 7 conflicts: India, Pakistan, Israel, Iran, Rwanda, Congo, Thailand and Cambodia, Azerbaijan and Armenia, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Serbia and Kosovo. This is in 6 months.
Yeah, this is crazy too, and you got to be careful with the spin that you're going to get with the media. The one way to tell what's actually happening is look at Thailand and Cambodia. They're going to say that there's nothing going on there. 70,000 Cambodian monks came out and nominated President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. They broke the vow of silence. I'm telling you, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? Or your lying mouths in this case. This is crazy. He's stopping wars. I love what he did with Iran, too. He hit him really hard, punched him in the face, and said, no. That's how you win a war. That's it. You don't need to build schools for those people.
No, schools are the last thing they need. They don't even go to them anyway. They bury weapons underneath them. All right, so, Michael, the other thing, Trump is really the only one actually trying to move the needle on this Russia-Ukraine thing. But, what's crazy to me is that Ukraine just launched a drone attack and hit a Russian nuclear facility. It's like, what is the one thing you don't do? Just don't shoot at nuclear reactors.
The one thing, all of us are veterans of either Iraq or Afghanistan, right? This is the one time that we have a force on the ground committed to going after one of our adversaries. They speak the language, they know the neighborhoods, they have the weapons, they have the willingness to fight. So I do support Ukraine doing things smartly, but yes, attacking a nuclear facility in Russia is probably not one of those things.
Exactly. And also the Trump is suggesting changing the name of the Defense Department back to the Department of War, Rob.
Yeah, these are big moves. I mean, hopefully that comes with, 5-star generals again, because we haven't had those in a while. I do like the name changes with some stuff, too. I mean, why not? If we're going to, we move stuff around. If we're going to go to war, change it to Department of War. I'm cool with that. I like a lot of the decisions being made, and I like it with firmness.
Yeah, and make it the Secretary of Offense. No more defense. Rob O'Neill, Michael Prager.
I need a job. Let's do this.
Let's go. All right, Rob, you be the Secretary of rounds going down range. All right, before we go, food delivery services up to another level, quite literally. More on this weird stuff next. Chipotle, or Zipotle now. Chipotle is now airdropping burritos with drones because clearly waiting 15 minutes for delivery just wasn't cutting it from some, illegal immigrant with a battery-powered 25-mile-an-hour bike. We need air travel for our guac now. Chipotle is collabing with Zipline in select locations in the U.S. to have a drone deliver your food. All they do is, you download the Zipline app. I didn't even know this was a thing. Press a couple buttons, and there you have it. The laziest, least human interactionable possible in order to order some food. You can get it delivered to a picnic site. The Zip drone will then fly and hover 300 feet in the air until it gets to its destination, and then lowers a secure package to the ground. I mean, what if this thing runs into a bird? You just get on your app. You're like, oh man, hit a hawk. What then? Do I have feathers in my chipotle bowl with a new topping or something? Some states also authorize you to shoot down a drone that flies over your property. What if my house is on the way to your house and I think it might be a G-Man drone, might be raining guac? Back in my day, we would just use these two little things we have called legs, and then we would walk to the area and get food, but now, I guess, in the competition of who can be the laziest in America, we got drones dropping them into the middle of a romantic picnic. But I guess this is where we're at in 2025. I would have thought flying cars. Greta's next. Stick around. We'll see you tomorrow.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.